right? Let me do this. A little bit of this. Oh, okay. It's not even on here. There we go. Look at this. Which way are we doing this? There we go. Hey, what's going on, folks? What is going on? What is going on? We are going to be reading Master Key to Riches right now by Napoleon Hill. And without further ado, Chapter 10, The Law of Cosmic Habit Force. I wanted to be reading this. As soon as I saw the title, I was like, I can't wait to read that. That is going to be dope. And I am super excited about it. So, by Napoleon Hill, this book written over 100 years ago. Of course, it is chapter 10 that we're reading today, The Law of Cosmic Habit Force. And this is just a reminder. I'm setting the intention that any error I have just, helps you get some epiphanies while you're listening to this. But beyond that fact, I want you to realize that we receive from books, from the actual words that are being said. We might take that in specifically and be like, wow, yeah, that makes sense. Whoa, that's incredibly awesome. And also, additionally, just by the intention and frequency of the person that, wrote the book right off the bat. For instance, in this situation, Napoleon Hill. So we can get just kind of like happenstance epiphanies from hearing the book, from just being around someone talking about it, and from the exact words that are being said. Most often that is the focus, but the other ones are benefits as well. The Law of Cosmic Habit Force. Chapter 10. This one's going to take a minute. It's the thickest chapter in this book, Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. Habit is a cable. We weave a thread of it every day, and at last we cannot break it. Horace Mann. Also, the first chapter to have a quote right at the beginning by someone, in this case named Horace Mann. Hey, cheers. I appreciate the love, by the way. So we are reading, and this one's going to be a long one, so feel free to sit in, do some gardening, do some cleaning, just take it in and learn. And definitely appreciate any thumbs ups. It always gets me. Touchdown, it looks like we got some people from where I'm at right now in Poland joining us. Dawood, appreciate you, brother. Any thumbs up helps, by the way. I do this every day now before I start work, so I really appreciate all the thumbs ups from people, including you, Dawood. Thank you so much, everyone, and appreciate you guys for staying tuned. Just throw some headphones on. This law by Napoleon Hill, or this chapter, which is The Law of Cosmic Habit Force by Napoleon Hill here, is a really awesome one. It's intense, and it's the longest chapter. So anyway, we've got it. Habit is a cable. We weave a thread of it every day, and at last, we cannot break it. So now I come to the analysis of the greatest of all of nature's laws, the law of cosmic habit force. Briefly described, the law of cosmic habit force is nature's method of giving fixation to all habits so that they may carry on automatically once they have been set into motion, the habits of human beings, the same as the habits of the universe. All people are where they are and what they are because of established habits of thoughts and deeds. The purpose of this entire philosophy is to aid individuals in the formation of the kind of habits that will transfer them from where they are to where they wish to be in life. Every scientist and many laymen know that nature maintains a perfect balance among all the elements of matter, energy throughout the universe, matter and energy throughout the universe. Let's do something here. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. How do we do this here? I'm gonna do this. Pin that. Yes. Just in case you're still here, feel free. But yeah, I appreciate all the likes and subscriptions that anyone has because it always helps me get more views. And ultimately, I want to share this knowledge with more people. There's lots of good books out there. This is the one I'm reading right now. And then Man's Search for Meaning is the one that I'm starting in a few days. So come join us every day. Appreciate you. Subscribe, and then we'll, always be able to be here with you. Every scientist and many laymen know that nature maintains a perfect balance among all the elements of matter and energy throughout the universe. That the entire universe is operated through an inexorable system of orderliness and habits which never vary and cannot be altered by any form of human endeavor. That the 5 known realities of the universe are time, space, energy, matter, and intelligence. These shape the other known realities into orderliness and a system based upon fixed habits. These are nature's building blocks, with which she creates a grain of sand or the largest stars that float through space, and every other thing known to humans or that human mind can conceive, These are the known realities. But not everyone has taken the time or the interest to learn that cosmic habit force is the particular application of energy with which nature maintains the relationship between the atoms of matter, the stars in their ceaseless motion outward to some unknown destiny, the seasons of the year, night and day, sickness and health, life and death. Cosmic habit force is the medium through which all habits and all human relationships are maintained in varying degrees of permanence, and the medium through which thought is translated into physical equivalent in response to the desires and purposes of individuals. I'm going to do one thing here. Alrighty. But these are the truths capable of proof, and one may count that hour sacred during which one discovers the inescapable the truths. But these are the truths capable of proof, and one may count that hour sacred. But these are truths capable of proof, and one may count that hour sacred during which one discovers the inescapable truth that human beings are only an instrument through which high powers are projecting themselves. This entire philosophy is designed to lead one to this important discovery and to enable one to make use of the knowledge it reveals, by placing oneself in harmony with the unseen forces of the universe, which may carry one inevitably on to success. The hour of this discovery should bring one within easy reach of the master key to all riches. Cosmic habit force is nature's comptroller through which all other natural laws are coordinated, organized, and operated through orderliness and systems. Therefore, it is the greatest of all natural laws. We see the stars and the planets move with such precision that the astronomers can predetermine their exact location and their relationship to one another several years from now. We see the seasons of the year come and go with a clock-like regularity. We know that an oak tree grows from an acorn and a pine tree grows from the seed of its ancestor, that an acorn never makes a mistake and produces a pine tree, nor does a pine seed produce an oak tree. We know that nothing is ever produced that does not have its antecedents in something similar which preceded it. With the nature and the purpose of one's thoughts produce fruits after their kind, just as surely as fire produces smoke. We know that nothing is ever produced that does not have its antecedents in something similar which preceded it. That the nature and the purpose of one's thoughts produce fruits after their kind, just as surely as fire produces smoke. Yes. So obviously, sometimes I reread stuff if I didn't catch it entirely. And I hope that helps you as well. Cosmic habit force is the medium by which every living thing is forced to take on and become a part of the environmental influences in which it lives and moves. Thus, it is clearly evident that success attracts more success, and failure attracts more failure, a truth that has long been known, although few have understood the reason for this strange phenomenon. It is known that the person who has been a failure may become an outstanding success by close association with those who think and act in terms of success. But not everyone knows that this is true because the law of cosmic habit force transmits the success consciousness from the mind of the successful person to the mind of the unsuccessful one who is closely related to that person in the daily affairs of life. Jak tam, Rawcio, Pawcio? Whenever any two minds contact each other, there is born of that contact a third mind patterned after the stronger of the two. Most successful people recognize this truth and frankly admit that their success began with their close association with some person whose positive mental attitude they either consciously or unconsciously appropriated. Cosmic habit force is unperceived through any of the five physical senses. That is why it has not been more widely recognized, for most do not attempt to understand the intangible forces of nature, nor do they interest themselves in abstract principles. These intangibles and abstractions represent the real powers of the universe. However, they are the real basis of everything that is tangible and concrete, the source from which tangibility and concreteness are derived. Understand the working principle of cosmic habit force, and you will now have no difficulty in interpreting Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Compensation. For he was rubbing elbows with the law of cosmic habit force when he wrote it. And Sir Isaac Newton, likewise, came near to the complete recognition of this law when he made his discovery of the law of gravity. Had he gone but a brief distance beyond where his discovery ended, he might have helped to reveal the same law as it holds our little Earth in space and relates it systematically to all other planets in both time and space. The same law that relates human beings to one another and relates all to themselves through thought habits. A description of habit force. The term habit force is self-explanatory. It is a force which works through established habits, and every living thing below the intelligence of humans reproduces itself and fulfills its earthly mission in direct response to the power of cosmic habit force through what we call instinct. Human beings alone have been given the privilege of choice in connection with living habits, and these they may fix by the thoughts, the one and only privilege over which any individual has been given complete right of control. Humans may think in terms of self-imposed limitations of fear, doubt, envy, greed, and poverty. Cosmic habit force will translate these thoughts into their material equivalent, or they may think in terms of opulence and plenty, and this same law will translate their thoughts into their physical counterpart. In this manner, one may control one's earthly destiny to an astounding degree, simply by exercising the privilege of shaping one's own thoughts. But once these thoughts have been shaped into definite patterns, they are taken over by the law of cosmic habit force and are made into permanent habits. And they remain as such unless and until they have been supplanted by different and stronger thought patterns. Now we come to the consideration of one of the most profound of all truths, the fact that most people who attain the higher brackets of success seldom do so until they have undergone some tragedy or emergency which reach deeply into their souls and reduce them to that circumstance of life called failure. The reason of this strange phenomenon is readily recognized by those who understand the law of cosmic habit force, for it consists in the fact that these disasters and tragedies of life serve to break up established habits, habits which have led eventually to the inevitable results of failure, and thus break the grip of cosmic habit force, and allow these failures to formulate new and better habits. We see the same phenomena in the results of warfare. When nations or large groups of people so relate themselves that their efforts do not harmonize with the divine plan of nature, they are forced to break up their habits. By warfare or some other equally disturbing circumstances, such as business depressions or epidemics of disease, so that a new start may be made which conforms more nearly to nature's ultimate and overall scheme. This conclusion is not intended to provide a justification for warfare, but rather to serve as an indictment of humankind on the charge of ignorance of the law, which, if it were universally understood and respected, would make warfare unnecessary and impossible. I truly believe that. Wars grow out of maladjustments in human relationships. These maladjustments are the results of negative thoughts which have grown until they assume mass proportions. The spirit of any nation is the sum total of the dominating thought habits of its people. That's true right there. That's why we all gotta be aware of where our thoughts are and how good our thoughts are. Genuinely, like, it's the addition of all these. And the same is true of individuals. For here too, the spirit of the individual is determined by dominating thought habits. There you go. Most individuals are at war in one way or another throughout their lives. They are at war with their own conflicting thoughts and emotions. They are at war in their family relationships and in their occupational and social relationships. Recognize this truth, and you will understand the real power and the benefits which are available to those who live by the golden rule. For this great rule will save you from the conflicts of personal warfare. Recognize it, and you will understand also the real purpose and benefits of a definite major purpose. A definite major purpose. I was going to say a definite chief aim, because that's how they say it in Think and Grow Rich. But recognize it, and you will understand also the real purpose and benefits of a definite major purpose. For once that purpose has been fixed in the consciousness by one's thought habits, it will be taken over by cosmic habit force and carried out to its logical conclusion by whatever practical means that may be available. Cosmic habit force does not suggest what an individual stutter in there, my bad. Cosmic habit force does not suggest what an individual. Again, I love it. Cosmic habit force does not suggest what an individual shall desire or whether one's thought habits shall be positive or negative, but it does act on all one's thought habits by crystallizing them into varying degrees of permanency and translating them into their physical equivalent through inspired motivation to action. The power of mass thought. Habit force not only fixes the thought habits of individuals, it also fixes the thought habits of groups and masses of people, according to the pattern established by the preponderance of their individual dominating thoughts. For example, the whole world began soon after the end of World War I to speak of the next war, until that war was crystallized into action. Damn, that's crazy. In a similar manner, epidemics of disease are thought and talked into existence. In the past, when the Department of Health of a city began its habit of posting large red-lettered signs warning people to be on the lookout for the outbreak of various diseases, an epidemic of that particular disease was the very next manifestation of this expression of the thought. It is almost sure to follow. Wow. No one was on it when I said that, but man, did you hear that? Talk about the last few years. Here too, the same rule applies to the individual who thinks and talks of disease. At first, this person is regarded as a hypochondriac, but when the habit is maintained, the disease or one very close to it generally makes its appearance. Cosmic habit force causes this, for it is true that any thought held in the mind through repetition begins immediately to translate itself into physical equivalent by every practical means that may be available. This is said all sorts of ways, but it is entirely true. When you create your thoughts, you start to look for patterns to find more of those thoughts, which is why we need to think more thoughts of things that we actually want. And obviously things are peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows up the mountaintop that were pointed on horizon 2. But of course, in general, that's how it works. So you can stop, the bad thoughts and start thinking, well, if this is my desire, what do I got to do? Maybe I got to apply for that job. Maybe I got to, create some sort of content for that because, that company actually doesn't have a social media person or something like that. Things that come to mind. It is a sad commentary on the intelligence of people to observe that more than 3/4 of the people who have the full benefits of a great country such as ours should go all the way through life in poverty and want. But the reason for this is not difficult to understand if one recognizes the working principle of cosmic habit force. Poverty is the direct result of a poverty consciousness, which results from thinking in terms of poverty, fearing poverty, and talking of poverty. It would be difficult to imagine successful people thinking in terms of that which they do not want or in terms of poverty. Education and general ability have nothing to do with their success, for some successful people have had less of each than have millions of others. Okay. For some success, education and general ability have nothing to do with their success. For some successful people have had less of each than have millions of others who remain poverty-stricken all their lives, some of them with a string of college degrees after their names. The world has thought and spoken of cancer as an incurable disease for so long that cosmic habit force has transmuted this thought pattern into a major fixation, which is difficult to break. But the time is at hand when groups of the better informed people are beginning to set up thought patterns which may serve as an antidote for this disease. I actually worked for a holistic company that we used electromagnetic therapies, and people were not getting any benefits from their doctors to cure their cancers. And then when they came to us, like the hundreds, I think it's in the thousands now actually, because it was since the 1980s, this company of people saved from cancer, literally cured their illness. It's difficult for me to talk about this with people that I know that have had cancer, just because people are like, "Oh, Tommy, you're not a doctor." I'm like, "Yeah, but our, technology has, cured people." And then some people say, "Well, hey, what's going on, everyone? I am back." And that's what it comes down to. Live for 7.5 minutes. That's interesting. This one, you delete the last 10 minutes. That's silly. Be wary of what you hear, but the world has thought and spoken of cancer as an incurable disease for so long that cosmic habit force has transmuted this thought pattern into a major fixation, which is difficult to break. But the time is at hand when groups of the better informed people are beginning to set up thought patterns which may serve as an antidote for this disease, which I have seen miracles occur through the placebo effect. But if you have seen, if you want to call it that, but actually we've worked with in our holistic center with technologies that have literally helped people cure their illnesses and cancers as well. And if you do just say, "Oh, well, that's the placebo effect," then what do you mean? You're literally curing yourself with your mind? That should teach you something right there. When this kind of mass thinking becomes sufficiently extensive, cancer will go the way of all human ills, which have been starved to death because people stop talking and thinking of them. Sound health is the result of a carefully cultivated, there you go, right? Look at those messages. Sound health is the result of a carefully cultivated, health conscious, Sound health is the result of a carefully cultivated health consciousness that has been created by constant thoughts of sound health and is made permanent by the law of cosmic habit force. If you desire sound health, give orders to your subconscious mind to create it, and cosmic habit force will carry out the order of sound health. You know, you got to put it all together, but this is a part of it. This is the concept, the law of cosmic habit force. If you desire opulence, give orders to your subconscious mind to produce opulence, thus developing a prosperity consciousness, and see how quickly your economic condition will improve. And of course, the main aspect here is that it is difficult to adjust what we have put ourselves in a comfortable pattern in. So if you have been thinking a certain way and doing things a certain way, then obviously just changing your thoughts ain't going to be easy, because you start to think those thoughts and you're going to want to return to those old thoughts and actions, because we have become confident in that life that we've been living, and we've been living comfortably in that specific level of living. So that's what happens. First comes the consciousness of that which you desire, then follows the physical or mental manifestation of your desires. That's why you have to keep at it. That's why you should do it in the morning and at night, right after bed and before going to bed, keeping these positive thoughts, because you're most closely related to your subconscious mind, and you can most closely connect to, even mantrically embed those thoughts into your subconscious. The consciousness is your responsibility. It is something you must create by your daily thoughts, or by meditation if you would prefer to make known your desires in that matter. I suggest both if possible, or just live meditatively and act through movements of free flow and harmony with the whole supreme intelligence. In this way, one may ally oneself with no less a power than that of the creator of all things. Says it right there. I have come to the conclusion, said a great philosopher. He said this right here. That the acceptance of poverty or the acceptance of ill health is an open confession of the lack of faith. We do a lot of proclaiming of faith, but our actions believe our words. Faith is a state of mind that may become permanent into only by actions. Belief alone is not sufficient, for as the great philosopher has said, faith without works is dead. That's right, you got to input the work. The law of cosmic habit force is nature's own creation. It is the one universal principle through which order and harmony are carried out in the entire operation of the universe, from the largest star that hangs in the heavens to the smallest atoms of matter. It is a power that is equally available to the weak and the strong, the rich and the poor, the sick and the well. It provides the solution to all human problems. That is true. In most respect, you obviously have to, take it in as a whole. Sometimes the words that I'm saying might not be exactly what is, being received from this actual frequency, but you have 3 levels of receivement while listening or reading a book, don't you? The law of cosmic habit force is nature's own creation. It is the one universal principle through which order and harmony are carried out in the entire operation of the universe, from the largest star that hangs in the heavens to the smallest atoms of matter. It is a power that is equally available to the weak and the strong, the rich and the poor, the sick and the well. It provides the solution to all human problems. The major purpose of the 17 principles of this philosophy is to help people adapt themselves to the power of cosmic habit force through self-discipline, specifically when it comes to forming habits of thought. How the 17 principles lend themselves to cosmic habit force. Let us turn now to a brief review of these principles so that we may understand their relationship to cosmic habit force. Let us observe how these principles are so related that they blend together and from the master key that unlocks the doors to the solution of all problems. The analysis begins with the first principle of the philosophy. A, the habit of going the extra mile. This principle is given first because it aids in conditioning the mind for the rendering of useful service, and this conditioning prepares the way for the second principle. B, definiteness of purpose. With the aid of this principle, one may give organized direction to the principle of going the extra mile and make sure that it leads in the direction of one's major purpose and becomes cumulative in its effects. These two principles alone will take anyone very far up the ladder of achievement, but those who are aiming for the higher goals of life will need much help on the way. And this help is available through the application of the third principle. C, the mastermind. Through the application of this principle, one begins to experience a new and greater sense of power, which is not available to the individual mind, as it brings one's personal deficiencies and provides one, when necessary, with any portion of the combined knowledge of humankind, which has been accumulated down through the ages. But this sense of power will not be complete until one acquires the art of receiving guidance through the fourth principle. D, applied health. Here, the individual begins to tune into the powers of infinite intelligence, which is a benefit that is available only to those who have conditioned their minds to receive it. Here, individuals begin to take full possession of their own mind by mastering all fears, worries, and doubts by recognizing their oneness with the source of all power. These four principles have been rightly called the Big Four because they are capable of providing more power than the average person needs in order to be carried to great heights of personal achievement. But they are adequate only for the very few who have other needed qualities of success, such as those provided by the fifth principle. E, pleasing personality. A pleasing personality enables one to sell oneself and one's ideas to others. Hence, it is essential for all who desire to become the guiding influence in a mastermind alliance. But observe carefully how definitely the four preceding principles tend to give one a pleasing personality. These five principles are capable of providing one with stupendous personal power, but not enough power to be insured against defeat. For defeat is a circumstance that hence the necessity of understanding and applying the sixth principle. F, habit of learning from defeat. Notice that this principle begins with the word habit, which means that it must be accepted and applied as a matter of habit under all the circumstances of defeat. In this principle may be found hope sufficient to inspire one to make a fresh start when one's plans go astray, as go astray they must at one time or another. Observe how greatly the source of personal power has increased through the individual of these six principles. Those who apply them have found out where they are going in life and have acquired the friendly cooperation of all those whose services are needed to help reach their goal. They have acquired the art of drawing upon the source of infinite intelligence and of expressing that power through applied faith, and have learned to make stepping stones of the stumbling blocks of personal defeat. Despite all of these advantages, however, the person whose definite major purpose leads in the direction of the higher brackets of personal achievement will come many times to the point in the career when he or she will need the benefits of the seventh principle. G, creative vision. This principle enables one to look into the future and to judge it by a comparison with the past, and to build new and better plans for attaining hopes and aims through the work